Hello again, this is Preheat. Welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. So it is always so hard to guess what spec will be meta, but it's kind of a hobby of mine to always try and guess it before the tier comes out. And, sims are not the best way to know what's going to be meta. In fact, if you looked at sim data historically, you probably would have thought Frost Mage was going to be meta in like the last 3 or 4 tiers. Obviously, that was not the case, right? There's more that goes into it than just sim data. However, we can take our experience on the PTR, having tested all the bosses. We can take our experience playing Mage, or mine in this case, over 2 decades of it. And we can take the data itself and kind of combine everything and try to look into that crystal ball and decide what is actually going to be good. Now, before I get into it, just let me explain some of the methodology here, what we're doing, and also who we have to thank. So you'll see the names on the screen here. These are the folks from the Alter Time Mage Discord who put in the work and did the sims. They're not getting paid for it. They just do this out of the kindness of their own heart and because they probably want to know things and they want you to know things. So the credit for the sim work goes to them. I've just compiled everything, tried to find the best combinations and the best sims I could dig up and kind of stuck them all together and curated it in a format where we can talk about it and you have visual references as well. Also, Arcane Sims have not been updated since right after the last big nerf to Spellslinger. So Arcane will be underperforming in these sims. There are likely APL changes to come. I would not trust a number on Spellslinger here. Take the numbers on Spellslinger with a massive grain of salt. They're probably going to go up a bit. I wouldn't expect it to go up more than like 5%, let's say. I don't have the new data yet. No one does except for maybe Porum and McDonald's Cartwheel. So we're just going to go with what we have. All right, so what we're looking at here is a compiled list of all the specs I feel like might be useful, using the best available APLs or action priority lists, the way that the mage plays as a robot, and then charting them out in each individual target count and showing it visually. Also, the ones that are highlighted in green are the better performing ones for each individual target count. So that's why you see the green moving around. I've already put some screenshots of the sheet in the Mage Discord for conversations about, what sort of talents to run for Mythic Plus and stuff like that, but I will not be making it public. However, for folks who are in my Metafy group, link below in the description there, anything that I work on like this, whenever I'm still in the process of working on it, I do share privately with people who are in that group. So if you'd like early access to this sort of stuff that I always end up sharing anyways, you can get your hands on it earlier by joining up on Metafy. And while you're on Metafy, if you're looking for one-on-one coaching, that is also a service I offer. So feel free to hit me up on there and book a session. All right, let's start by talking about Frost. So Frost is in a pretty good state overall, I'd say. Frost just suffers from the same issues it's kind of had since, honestly, going back a couple expansions now. It's not really super fun to play unless you just really enjoy the Frost fantasy. It also, the damage is pretty good overall. It excels in mass AoE. It's got crazy AoE burst. It's also got a build that does really well in single target. However, these are different builds. And Frost does lose a bit of value whenever you're going from one version of the build to another version. That's why I have this chart here. So you can see how each individual line with these colors here scales with target count, right? So the bigger the gap here, the more you lose going for AoE talents versus single target talents, right? That's kind of like a good indication of the tax you're receiving for picking up those AoE talents. So if we look at like the Frostfire Frost build for single target, you can see at 20 targets, 10 targets, 9 targets, it is way behind the Mythic Plus versions. For Spellslinger, same story, right? Even bigger of a gap here. But if you pick up those Mythic Plus talents, suddenly it's doing really, really well. So I could definitely see Frost being good in Mythic Plus. There are definitely dungeons where you want to kite certain mobs. There are mobs that you just can't take melees from. You're not supposed to. So having slows on those constantly is really, really great. Dungeons like Halls of Atonement, right? There is some kiting that you want to do there. So there's a utility in Frost. Now, of course, you don't have a cheat death. You don't have nearly the funnel of Arcane. And you do suffer a bit of a tax when it comes from single target to AoE, but it's not as bad as some of its peers. Overall, I'd say Frost is just a very lukewarm pick. It's good, but it's not great. If you like Frost and you enjoy it, then more power to you. Just play it. You can probably play it for all the content in the new tier. Raid, Mythic Plus, it's not going to matter. Frost is going to perform across the board pretty well. It's just, I don't think it's really the best in any category, right? No funnel, no execute, no cheat death. You do have slows though. That's the big thing you have going for you. So yeah, if you're a Frost enjoyer, good news, Frost is good. Moving on to Arcane. So again, reminder, these Arcane sims, especially the ones for Spellslinger, are going to be underperforming what you'll actually see on live. All right, so Arcane is kind of the same as what you'd expect if you've been playing on live. The biggest difference is that for Spellslinger, you get a little bit more funnel than before, although that has been nerfed quite a bit. Also, in general, it's just really strong. It's just that Fire got like some serious buffs with those Sun Fury buffs. So yeah, you'll see Sun Fury here is ahead on single target. Again, I think Spellslinger is probably going to be close to it once we actually have the new APLs implemented here. But I'd say that Arcane is actually like a really solid pick in Mythic +2. Sure, you won't be doing the same overall. Like if we go up to, as you can see, like 20 target count, 10 target count, really anything above 5, Arcane kind of plateaus there. Just the same as live. It has a little bit more value as Spellslinger as it goes up because Orb is getting up to 8 target scaling. But yeah, I think Arcane still has a place because it is very good at killing the big mob. That's kind of Arcane's niche, is like going in there and funneling damage onto the big guy that needs to die. Like if we look at AoE damage, this is at 5 targets, right? You can see Arcane is ahead, but like look at the priority damage on this thing, right? So going back to Arcane single target, we're looking at anywhere from like 5.4 to 5.6 million overall on the single target. You add in a couple extra targets in there, suddenly that number inflates. And here it's all the way up to 7.19 million. So very, very good at priority damage. However, suffers in situations where pulls are extremely large, kind of steeply goes up to 5 targets, pulls ahead of everything else, and then plateaus. So pretty much the same story as live. And as you know, Arcane is very, very good on live. So I think Arcane will be a fantastic pick for Mythic Plus and the raid. And I think if you enjoy Arcane because you're Arcane 1 trick, this is probably great news to you. You also have 2 great hero talents to pick from. So yeah, great news for Arcane. And you might be saying to yourself, okay, well, yeah, it looks like an Arcane tier. You could be right about that. But let's talk about our last contender here before we move on. All right, so here are Fire Sims, and I put a little bit more work into looking at the AoE differences between these because I have to figure out talents for Mythic Plus and what the best compromise is on single target versus AoE. But Fire, Sun Fury Fire specifically, because Frost Fire's in the dump. Sun Fury Fire is looking extremely strong. You know how strong Sun Fury was at the start of this tier? I think it's probably going to be the same, if not better, next tier. In fact, if I were to have to choose one spec to play the entire raid in and I was not allowed to change my spec, I would probably play Sun Fury in this raid. Now, there are fights where there's damage amps, and damage amps, obviously, they are better if you have burst, especially if you have funnel involved too, right? That's going to be a really good fit for Arcane. But when it comes to damage amps, there's always other things to consider, like, is there a damage check that we have to meet, and how bad is it to meet that damage check? How is the timing on the damage amp? What sort of damage amp is it? Is it just 25%? Is it triple damage, right? There's a lot of nuance to like what kind of damage amp you're looking at. I will say overall, having done all the bosses, there's at least one boss, Forge Weaver, where I think Arcane is just really, really exceptional in the damage amp. But on Nexus King, the damage amp, at least with the tuning we did on the PTR, it didn't really feel like Arcane was that good for it because this dragon comes out and you deal damage to it, but it just despawns once it reaches half health. And you hit half health really, really fast. So if they tune that to be really, really difficult, and you actually get your Touch of the Magi pop, and it's really important you have damage there, that could be good. However, right before that, there's also a big AoE thing that you have to do, and you have to kill an ad up on the platform. It's kind of like Rezagat. So I could see Arcane probably shooting to have their cooldowns there instead. So yeah, it's all a bunch of unknowns, but I will say that I think Fire would probably perform really well on that Nexus King fight too. And if I had to choose one, I would probably go with Fire because Cheat Death is just so overpowered, man. Caught is just so good. And Fire is just fully mobile. All these fights are very hectic. A lot going on. A lot of movement. Being able to just run around the whole time while you press your button says Sun Fury. It's pretty spammy, but it's also very, very effective. So I gotta say, I'm a huge fan of Sun Fury. And if you enjoyed Sun Fury in Liberation of Undermine, you're probably going to enjoy it even more this time around. If you watched my previous tier video where I was talking a lot of crap about Sun Fury and talking about how annoying it is to die and basically that you have Spy Masters the whole time, just know that they fixed that quite a bit because they've moved the damage away from your tier bonus and they've put it into Pyroblast, right? This is a huge boon for UI, which is why Sun Fury is so far ahead of Frostfire now. In my opinion, it's looking like a very, very strong Arcane and also Sun Fury Fire tier. But my prediction is I think Fire might actually be the go-to for folks doing the Race to World first. If the tuning holds. Obviously, tuning could happen and everything I say could be invalidated in a couple hours. But that's just my take on it so far. Okay, so yeah, single target all the way up until 4 target. Just the baseline single target build is doing exceptional. And then as you add more targets, you're going to see the single target build kind of fall off as you get into the Flame Strike range, right? Now, when it comes to how you want to build for Mythic Plus, you're going to have to give up single target for it. The question is how much you want to give up. If you're okay with giving up everything and you're just doing really fast keys where you're just pulling the entire room and you're pulling everything to the boss and, you know, it's like you're just doing it for crest, right? This build right here, Blast Zone, you can see it down below here where you pick up Blast Zone, you drop the Phoenix Flame talents, you drop Hyperthermia. This is going to be probably the go-to. It has the highest burst, it has the highest AoE damage. It just is really bad in single target. Luckily though, not too bad at 3 targets, almost in line 3, and it is actually pretty much in line at 4, right? It's slightly ahead at 4. So that would be probably the go-to build if you want to go all in on AoE. If you want more of a reasonable build, in my opinion, this build right here. Now, you can actually drop Scald for Improved Scorch if you want. It's a very minimal difference. I think realistically, you'll get more value out of Scald in Mythic Plus. But this is probably what I will recommend on my Wowhead guides for Fire in Mythic Plus. Had a side chat with Forgy, and this is one of the builds he kind of like was talking about, maybe being a good thing, and I added it in here with my other ones. And yeah, I agree. It's looking really, really fantastic. So this is kind of what you did spec with Fire. Notice how in the chart, they're all very close, right? You're giving up very little single target for AoE in most of these builds. Maybe not, you know, Frostfire. Maybe not some of these builds that, you know, go all in on the AoE talents like Sun Fury, Blast Zone, right? But I mean, you can see like the line kind of holds steady here if you look at these middle ones, like the light blue, the green, the purple. These are the Mark of the Fire Lord, Improved Scorch, and other such builds. So yeah, I think Fire is in a pretty good spot. You will still be flame striking in Mythic Plus, but you will probably only be flame striking during combustion. So outside of combustion, you probably just want to prio damage onto whatever the target with the highest health is. And I think that's actually a pretty healthy place for Fire to be in. And overall, I'd say I'm happy with it. The only thing I wish is that Frostfire was tuned a bit up. If Frostfire was looking so good, and then the tier bonus was totally carrying it, whenever they pulled that out and they added the flat Pyroblast buff, Pyroblast just doesn't contribute enough damage for Frostfire. It's only like about 25% of the damage. For Sun Fury, it's about, you know, 54%, so more than double that. So obviously this was a way bigger buff for Sun Fury, and it ended up, you know, with UI as part of it too, just like totally throwing it into the stratosphere. So I hope that they buff SKB Frostfire in some way that doesn't affect Sun Fury Fire. But, you know, if they don't end up doing that and we're just stuck with this, I would be okay with it because I do enjoy Sun Fury. All right, and that's kind of my summary. If I had to tier list these out, like I would just put Sun Fury Fire S tier and then Arcane, Sun Fury Arcane like right behind it, honestly, for raid. They're all kind of S tier. That's the thing, man. All these specs are so close. You can see it in the tuning here in the single target, right? Very, very strong. Arcane is behind. It'll probably come up a bit. But Sun Fury, man, it's just looking good across the board, especially Sun Fury Fire. All right, and that is going to do it for today. So again, I'm not going to share out the sheet publicly, but people who are in my Metafy group, link in the description below, they do get access to anything I'm working on. So if, you know, this is something you really need to get your hands on, you can go join that group. Go join if you need one-on-one coaching, also something I offer. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more of my content, be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.